Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Let's Chat About Death. My name is Simon and I'm joined by Chris. Hello Chris.
Oh, hello.
It's a bit different me doing the intro, but
I know,
here we are.
I know. I just saw you before, your lips were moving, you were trying to think about how you were going to do it all. But yeah, all right. What do we... Yeah, you continue. I've just interrupted.
So we're going to talk about today about something that's quite common that we get asked a fair bit, and there's not a lot of information going into it if you're not really sure about funerals itself, but the differences between cremation and burial in terms of pricing and procedure, how does it all work,
Yeah.
what forms you need, how much is involved, things like that.
Ah, all right. So where do we start?
Well, I'll start with cremation first because that's probably the most simplest to answer and talk about.
Yep.
So cremation is going to be your cheapest option no matter what compared to a burial.
Yeah, they like that. Yeah. Cheapskates.
That's why there's so many.
No, cremation is definitely the more affordable option. And, yeah, I find it a lot cleaner too. That's just me.
Yeah, I find it a bit cleaner, you know, with what you see on TikTok and things like that, people complaining about, oh, how could you do that to a loved one? And it's...
Yeah, but you look back at the old days, that was far worse than what we do now.
Yeah, but I mean, whether you're being buried or cremated, it really doesn't matter. It's either you rot or you turn to ash.
Yeah.
One or the other.
Yeah.
You can't have it any other way, really.
Well, there is the other option of aquamation.
But that's sort of similar to the cremation
Yeah,
itself,
yeah,
just
just
involving water instead of fire.
High pressure hose.
Just a different element.
I don't know if I could. Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. So in regards to cremation, what are some of the things that we need to be mindful of when we're preparing someone? He's looking at me blankly.
It's got me on the spot now.
It's like, what do you mean by that? Is it? Yeah. What do you reckon? What do you reckon we need to be aware of when we're preparing someone?
We need to be aware that this individual has a pacemaker or any sort of battery operated implant.
Yeah. And if they do have one, what do we do?
We need to remove it.
Yeah. And you did your first one the other day.
Oh, well, that was my first one on my own, but
On your
probably
own.
second overall.
He's only done two. Yeah.
Only done two.
He's
plenty
a
more to come.
master at pacemaker removal. And how did you find that?
Quite simple, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
There's really not much to it. Not as much of what you think it might be, because all it is just sitting under the skin, really.
Yeah. So why do we need to remove a pacemaker or battery operated device?
Because with intense heat, especially in a cremator, it can explode.
Oh, yeah. Don't want that.
And then it's not just the damages of the cremator itself, but it's any crematorium staff that may be injured, and then you're up for those costs.
That's right.
Wow.
Yeah, and you don't want someone knocking on your door saying, guess what, you owe me $500,000 for that cremator. Yes.
Yeah.
I remember, I know this is going off a little bit off track a little bit, but I remember, well, it's still got something to do with cremation. I remember what was it, a Asian family. It had nothing to do with it wasn't part of our place, but they put firecrackers into their loved one's coffin.
Oh, no.
So obviously and I'm laughing now because I could just see the person that the funeral director, their look on their face of oh my God, I didn't know this happened. Yeah, so this thing went off. Like it just went.
But how would the funeral director not know what's being put into the coffin?
Well, that was my argument, but
What, did he just open the lid and turn his back and go, yep, no worries?
but yeah, the crematorium staff they thought it was like total destruction of the cremator, but it didn't really do anything. But it was just the noise of firecrackers going off.
Yeah, why would they think that's a good idea to put?
Yeah, but that's why they've got such strict rules on who, what goes inside a coffin or what we can and can't do. Like, no glass items can go into that because glass doesn't tend to burn the way, unless it's at a higher rate of heat. Obviously battery devices.
Certain metal objects.
You don't go and put a can of, like if he was a tagger or something, going and put a can of spray in there.
Yeah,
like
don't keep
paints.
deodorant or anything in there.
Deodorant. Imagine that. That'd be.
Oh, you really like this deodorant?
He liked his Africa lynx.
Lynx gets sued for the destruction of a
Yeah,
cremator.
yeah. That'd be a first on their side. So what else? What else is different, I guess, to burial in the legal side of things?
Well, you'd need to get a doctor to sign off on the loved one.
Yeah.
Because once they're cremated, you can't go back for a second ID.
No, it's not like a jigsaw that you can put back.
With a burial, if you buried someone and then down the line you're like, oh, I need to double check this individual, you can actually exhume them, or in simpler terms, dig them up, and you can ID them that way.
Yeah, that's right.
You can't ID ash.
You can't. And so this government doctor, or they call it government medical officer, their role is to pretty much look at the medical cause of death from the treating doctor to make sure that there is nothing reportable to our state's Victoria. No. Our state's coroner for, like, it could be a fractured neck of the femur, especially that tends to be a lot in a lot of medical cause of death, isn't it? Like, especially the elderly. They might have had a fall and recently had an operation that could contribute to the passing, dehydration, and a lot of other sort of things that could be due to neglect.
Yeah, or abuse or things like that, like obvious strangulation.
Imagine seeing that. That just you just wonder. So with that government doctor, they pretty much just look at that. They don't know the person from a bar of soap, but it's really just to protect if there has been anything. Whereas, like you said before, burials, they can exhume. If there was ever an issue when it got to our registry of births, deaths and marriages for our state, then they can easily take that to the health department, and then the health department or the coroner will go, all right, bring it back up,
Exactly.
And then they can look at whatever's left of that person.
You can't ID ash.
No.
You can't examine ash. It's just ash.
No. So other than that, in regards to preparation, a body can still be embalmed. A body can still have normal treatment done. There's nothing special that needs to be done. The only thing, I guess, on the special side is if family have a cultural reason or religious reason why they would bath someone in something different, like yogurt.
Have you had to do that? Like
the Hindus and the Sikhs, they tend to. The ones that are really into their culture will do.
What's it about? Yoga, though.
Yoga. I'd have to look that up. That might be another episode that we can do. But I think it's just normal, unsweetened. It sounds weird, but there's obviously a reason for it. With some strawberries and a little splash of honey. But look, while we're talking, I might even be able to just look that up as well. But Yeah, so unless there's any reason why they have to be prepared differently for cremation or burial, it's the same. Obviously, if they're Hindu, they get cremated. Sikhs, they get cremated. So there's no burial for them. Yeah.
But you can still inter ashes into the ground.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess in regards to coffins for cremation, the only thing that you can't obviously put into a cremator is metal, glass, any of that type of stuff. So it has to be user friendly. A lot of coffin handles that have metal in them will have to be removed. If not, it sort of, I don't know, it affects the ash. That sounds weird, but
So they would just unscrew that prior to putting it in?
Yeah. I don't know what happens with them after. I don't know if it's the old dodgy brothers of here's a slab of beer and give me the crate at the end. I'm not really sure. And that's only a joke. I wouldn't believe anyone would do that. But but yeah, anything that's going to, I guess, not deteriorate, but what's the word? Be good if I was good at English today, wouldn't it? Affect the ash. Like, a higher burning rate will then affect the ash as well. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, there was another thing I saw on TikTok. A bunch of people were complaining about the same thing, and it just baffled me. And I don't know why it annoyed me. Whether it's common sense or it's because I know different in the industry, but people were complaining about the coffin, or what do you do with dad's coffin or mum's coffin? And the person on the video, or the American creme operator, said, it gets burned with mum or dad. And they said, well, why am I paying thousands of dollars for a coffin that's just going to be turned to ash?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, what do you expect to do with it? So hypothetically, if we were to take mum out of the coffin, what are you going to do with the coffin? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
you can't keep it as memorabilia.
There is and a lot of organisations around the world will utilise cardboard coffins or pine coffins. The old classic words of just put me in a pine box. Now, I can tell you that pine boxes are as dear as anything, right? They're dearer than most of the coffins that we stock. But if they were a wood person, then great. If they're into it's like the Echo sort of ones, the wicker baskets that just look like picnic baskets, those type of things. It's really just, cardboard can't be in a cool room for a certain period of time. We know that when we go to the shop and we buy, might be tomatoes that are in a packet that are, cardboard. You keep them in the fridge for longer than 2 days, and it's like
it gets all like soggy.
Yeah, soggy. So that's exactly what happens with them. So, and the cardboards are dearer than what our standard MDF coffins are worth. So, I don't tend to stock them. But if someone was really, really adamant about it, then I'd go, all right, we have to. But I hold no responsibility for what happens with that coffin, because it's not something that I stock.
Now, people aren't obligated to. You aren't obligated to buy a coffin itself or a casket for a cremation if you don't want to.
Yeah.
There is alternative methods like we just spoke about with your, a wood box or.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking like your standard crate from, back of a depot of a loading dock or something. But there is alternative methods to it. You can get your cardboard. Like, I think a lot of Americans use the cardboard where it just folds up.
They do.
It just folds up and locks in. But I think here we use a lot more of a woody type.
Yeah.
But yeah, burials itself, it needs a casket or coffin, I think. But there's another type of burial too, I think. The bio burial?
Yeah.
Where you can just be put into the ground with nothing.
Yeah, I don't know if they're allowed in some of our cemeteries. But yeah. But it also, once again, depends on your culture. I think just reading up on that yogurt, and correct me if I am wrong, I'm only going by a lot of this. I'd have to probably reach out to some of our Hindu mates, but it's sort of like a purification. You know, yeah, just purification. The body is washed in a mixture of milk, yogurt, or ghee, and honey. Yeah, well, you need just a bit of yeah. The body also will be washed in purified water, but yeah, it's while they're washing, they're reciting mantras. So, and then that's where you see a lot of the big toes are tied together. The hands should be placed palm to palm in a position of prayer. Now, a lot of our families are Hindu, but they're sort of second or third generation. So it's like the kids; they have no idea. A lot of the time, it's like, well, what do we have to do? You know, it's the elders are the ones that tend to push this is the rights, this is, you know, and even with the ashes, they're not really meant to have the ashes at home.
Okay.
So, yeah, because that's part of their, I don't know.
Is it like a spiritual thing?
Yeah. So it's like, you know, they'll say you can't do that, you can't have the loved one back in your house, but then they go and scatter the ashes into a stream, but it has to be a blessed stream. You can't take it down to, you know, the local stream down the road here and go, yep, I'm just going to drop it in there. It's got to be
so no water supplies.
a lot of the time that they take it back to India, and they go into the Ganges there and release it into there. Or if a temple around our area has that, then they might have a garden or a water area that they can use.
Interesting.
Yeah. So now burial. Do we do anything different for burial, or is it?
I mean, I think the only difference between burial and cremation, in my opinion, is the cost, right? Because with a burial, like we just discussed with pacemakers and things, you can actually leave them inside the body.
Yeah.
And you can, because it's not going to react with the earth.
No.
So you can leave all that in there. You don't have to do any sort of invasive procedures or anything like that. You can just straight to the wash, clean, straight to the coffin, and then bury.
Yeah.
You know, I think the biggest thing is the cost.
Yeah. Look, unfortunately, land has gone up so much, and the cemeteries do have the monopoly of what they can charge, because like anything, price goes up for everything. But yeah, it was probably lucky for the people that purchased their graves, you know, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, or something like that, where price wasn't so high, and you know, it's probably a good price. But now to go and purchase an at-need grave is, especially in the metropolitan ones, you're probably looking anywhere between 6.5 to whatever. It's endless. Up to even the mausoleum crypts of like $80,000.
Yeah, expensive.
So, cremation, I guess, would be $1,000. So,
well, in my opinion, it makes sense. Like if you think about it, if you bury a loved one, you have to go to that exact burial point to visit each time.
Yeah.
As opposed to having an urn in your house, you can just say hi and bye and talk to every now and then.
I guess the biggest thing would be burials. Cremation memorializations, you've got heaps of options, but I don't know. I've always been a true believer that, you know, you may be in a place for a certain period of time, but then what happens if you move?
Yeah.
And your loved one's in Melbourne and you move to Darwin.
And it's expensive to exhume someone.
Yeah, just for the sake of it, you know, I've got a new job. It's in Darwin. And then all of a sudden your job doesn't work out.
Yeah.
You're going to bring Dad back. Like, the health department's not going to allow too much of the moving around for the sake of that. I mean, once someone's in the ground, they're in the ground. That's unless there is a absolute, you know, people have had to go through counselling because of how they feel. Well, then that's different. You know, it might have been a relationship breakup, and who's organised the funeral at the time is probably going, oh, well, I'll get you. I'm just going to bury that person here, rather than really thinking about the long-term side effects to people. The burials, then, you know, you've got lawn, you've got the monumental.
Got the vault graves.
But you've got, then it's the cost of, like you were saying, the cost of building those granite and marble structures, then you got to put the lettering on it. And I don't know, I don't think you'd get change out of 20 grand for some of the ones,
Exactly.
at our local ones.
But you're paying a lot of money for, say, a grave, like a tombstone or monumental. But and this just might be me being anxious or OCD, but what happens if the cemetery grounds people don't clean the grave and you've come in to visit and it's all vandalised from someone else? Because it doesn't stop vandals during the day.
I can tell you now, I've never once seen a cemetery staff member cleaning a grave, ever.
Neither have I.
No. They'll cut the lawn if it's a lawn grave. That's why they have concrete beams now, because they were damaging too much of the plaques. They'd be going over the children's lawn, how they had all those little windmill things. And, I guess it would probably drive them up the walls because they've got a job to do or whippersnippering. But, I've never, ever seen anyone sort of, it's
Well, I'd be
crazy.
upset if I paid 20,000 for a grave and it's vandalised.
Yeah.
Even chipped for that matter.
Imagine someone coming and tagging. I'm sure that's happened.
It's happened.
Well, it didn't, when I say recently, probably 12.
Recently.
It wasn't the one over towards Footscray, over the other side of town, where this mentally disturbed guy went and broke into some of the raised crypts and took the coffin out and took the skull.
What?
Yeah. Over in I think it was Footscray or one of those
that's
cemeteries over the other side, people breaking in. But that,
well, that's another thing. Like, I mean, ideally, it doesn't stop anyone from hiding behind a tree in a cemetery, because security is not going to search every inch of the cemetery to make sure everyone's gone. They'd lock the gates, wait till the sun goes down, and people start grave robbing. Yeah.
Well, I remember we're at a cemetery in Melbourne, and I had 2 burials in this location, and I thought it was weird because I had one. I think the first one I was the hearse driver, so that was a little bit different. Second one, I was a spare person just waiting for the hearse to come from another area, and I saw this ute coming in and out. I thought, maybe they're doing some works down there, because the guy was wearing high vis and this white ute, but then it had all this metal in the back. But he would come, 2 or 3 times in the time that I was there. And I went in to this is the second time, I went into the office and I said, you're getting some work done or something down the back? They went, no. Oh, okay, because there's a guy down there that's like grinding the old brass, the like little fences that were around the graves.
Yeah.
And he was putting it all into his ute. He would then take it around to a van up the street, drop it all into there, because brass is worth money. Mm. But the office, they would have seen this come in and out, this ute come in and out. And then they finally caught this bloke because he was grave robbing.
It makes you wonder, why they don't have tougher security on graveyards and things, despite the fact that there's a lot of money being put in there.
Oh, especially the older cemeteries, and this one was an old cemetery. Some guy thinking, how can I get some money? Instead of let's go and raid the bins and get the cans out and get 10 cents a can or whatever, to then, I'm going to go and steal something off, some brass or what did they have, like the old the statues and the flower vases, and totally destroy little kids' graves just for the sake of a couple of bucks. Come on.
Yeah, but how can you bring yourself to do that?
Oh, well, they do.
That's how could you live yourself?
I'm sure there's other areas that they could get money from,
Well, I'm
go
probably
and get a job.
That's my whole thought on being buried. They're my flaws to it.
Yeah, I'm not a my thing. Well, my experience with burials hasn't been too good. I've seen a lot of stuff, and I thought, I know people are going to say the person's passed. It's just their final earth body location, and I get it. But some of the stuff that happens when people aren't there, cracked lids and all sorts of stuff, and you just and stories that I've heard from grave diggers and like especially when I say the old school grave diggers, not so much these new excavator type.
Yeah, the ones with the shovels.
Yeah. They tell so many different stories. But like burial will service a certain market, especially the old school, like Catholic and all that, because that's what it was, when, if they were Christian or there, when Jesus comes back, then everyone will be resurrected. Whereas if cremation, you're not. But it doesn't mean anything now. I think that person will still come back in whatever form that they want to be in.
The whole resurrection thing is all about like your soul being resurrected, not your physical form.
That's right.
And the whole idea with Christianity thing, and not to go too much into it, but it's once you've been resurrected, you go to a complete different world, which was supposed to be the new earth, not this place. So that's when people say, oh, they're in a better place. That's what they're technically referring to.
That's right, yeah.
But in terms of pricing with burials, you've got to pay for the coffin. You've got to pay for all the labour fees. You have to pay for the grave plot itself, any tombstone or anything extra, the monument that gets built on top of it, things like that. Whereas a cremation, you just pay for the service. Yeah, there you go.
I was a bit late coming in with that. I'm thinking, where is it? Yeah.
But, personally, I would want to be cremated.
We're going to do a minute's silence. Sorry, I just had to do that.
What about you? Are you going to get cremated or buried?
Cremated. But it's different when relatives pass away, especially being in this industry, because I know my nana was cremated. I know my grandmother was cremated. But when my mum died, it was like, I know what happens. So I had to take the hat off as a funeral director and put the hat on as a son rather than that. And I just felt, and it was one of my like psychic type people that said to me, you got to remember that fire is purifying. So whatever ailment my mum had, or my grandma or my nana or anyone, is fire will get rid of it.
Well, fire's used for a lot of things.
So
if you truly want to get rid of DNA, you burn it.
Yeah. So the big thing would be, so I looked at it more as purification than fire. You know, that physical. Look, we've just finished watching the what did we watch?
Vikings.
The Vikings, that one. And then they burn their loved ones, and some get burnt and some get cremated, get buried under all these pile of rocks.
But the traditional one was actually cremations back then.
That's right.
On the boat.
On the boat. Yeah, you just think that's taken me 4 years to build that boat.
Like if you look at the Vikings burials compared to the Vikings cremations, they put a lot more effort and tradition into the actual cremation rather than the burial.
Burial, they do, yeah. But I think that maybe that was significant. Whoever, if it was a king, queen, or someone or a larger warrior, maybe got that ritual. I mean, that might even be another thing that we do an episode on. The old medieval sort of days of burials and cremation. Well, cremation would have just been on piles of sticks and.
Well, I think from a religious perspective, with people tossing up between, cremation is better or burial is better for your next life, I think it goes hand in hand. Because people with cremations can argue, but if your ashes are scattered, then you can go off into the next journey.
Yeah.
And then they can say, but burials, you become with the earth and you return to the earth and your spirit moves on. So it's a cultural thing.
I've always had this thing, and look, for anyone that's got any loved ones buried, it's just my experience, or my thoughts, I should say. It doesn't mean that this happens, but if someone died of an infectious disease, right, or had an infectious disease, and I know that a majority of people that pass away, that disease doesn't tend to move around, but there is that possibility. I think with death, a lot of people haven't really researched that 100%. They say about, what we've just gone through with all our lockdowns to the, tuberculosis and, that our doctor keeps going, oh, don't make sure you wear a mask and do that. So there's things that will lay dormant. Once they pass, they come out. Now, if someone's buried and they get to a point where they're in with all the worms and all the stuff that happens in the ground, we know what happens there, and they're starting to break down. If there's moisture, all those worms or whatever start to float to the top, then that virus is out on the top. Now, how many times do you go to a cemetery and you see people sitting on the grass next to their loved one or on a picnic rug? They got little babies sort of crawling all over the ground. How many times do you see that?
All the time.
Yeah, right?
All the time.
Now, if there was, in my head, I automatically think, so if that virus has gone to the top, it's in the ground. So I'm not going to go and touch my face after I've touched the ground, right? Whereas, people pick their nose and do all sorts of stuff and you think, no. That's just me. That's just me. It's probably a load of horse manure,
technically, viruses and diseases, it needs a healthy system or immune system to survive. It needs tissue to
So
survive.
then you look at the worms or the bugs or whatever else happens there, and then water gets involved in it, and it floats to the top. Whereas cremation, poof, done.
Well, yeah, if you want to get rid of, like I said, DNA, or any sort of bacteria, fire's the way to go.
Yeah.
Well, didn't they do, like, when COVID first came around, the very first people who died from COVID?
Use that word.
Yeah, I'm using it. I don't care.
It's like, damn you. You don't use the word.
But didn't they do, like, a bunch of
There's people out
cremations?
there ticking now, they go,
Yeah, probably.
they're probably in the fetal position, rocking back and forth. Yeah. You need to go back to church. Sorry, had to again.
Purify my soul with fire.
We were talking about cows before with the Hindus.
But with cremations, you can still, because I've seen some people go, oh, can you still witness cremations nowadays? Yeah, you can. But I've also seen.
And would you do that?
Witness?
Yeah.
Possibly.
You would?
Yeah, possibly, yeah. Because
what would be the reason for you to witness one of your loved ones do that?
It would probably be a security thing. So it'd be to make sure that, you're entrusting someone else with your loved one, that they're not going to be mistreated, that you get to be there during the funeral, you get to be there to go down to the crematorium, and you get to be there to see them finally go into the cremator without any sort of neglect, if that makes sense. So, like, no one's tagging mum's coffin.
You don't think seeing the coffin go in would trigger you?
Oh, it would probably trigger you a little bit, but I mean, me personally would be completely, if you compared to
You
not
might go,
witnessing.
oh, it's hot in here.
It's hot in here.
It's hot.
Give me a bottle of water.
I was like, I don't feel too good. Yeah.
But yeah, I think I would feel better being able to see more than see less, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Especially if that's going to be your final time to see mum or dad.
Yeah.
Because most people's final time is in the chapel. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
But I'm saying the more kind of eye contact you can make with a loved one, the better.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. But it's not, people misunderstand what a witness cremation is. There's a lot of people saying, especially on TikTok, oh, but don't they have the
Spit it out, mate. It's okay.
Here we go. Now it's my turn.
I've passed you the banner of not.
Banner of hesitation.
Cannot to speak English.
A lot of people think that the creme staff will have the cremator open and you get to witness the whole thing. That's not the case.
No.
That's not the case at all.
Oh, I couldn't do that.
No, it's a safety issue, because then you'd start having flames coming out and things like that. So it'd be more than just watching flesh burn.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, what you see is it's quite basic. Coffin goes in, catches fire, door closes. That's it. I mean, it doesn't sound like much, but for me, it'd be a lot better to get more eye contact than not.
Yeah. So you don't have a lot of trust for some providers?
Oh, with the way the,
in society.
yeah, in society,
Yeah.
because like with the way the world's going nowadays, who can you trust?
Yeah,
Really?
yeah,
But it could be just me being screwed over so many times in my life that I trust with me is hard.
yeah.
But that could just be me.
Look, I think witness cremations, and once again for cultural, like the Hindus and Sikhs and all that, and that's just part of their ritual, because normally the number one son or the daughter gets to light the pile over in Sri Lanka and India and all of that. Whereas here, it's pretty much just a thumbs up,
Yeah.
let the operator do it. But on the other side, I have seen witness cremations where it has traumatized a lot of people. I just think you have this beautiful service to then the last visual that you're going to have is in the fire.
Yeah.
But I get it.
But I mean, it could go hand in hand. Like your imagination, if you didn't witness it, your imagination could make it a lot worse in your mind than what you
Yeah.
actually see in person.
But for those people, you pay for this thing to happen too. It's not a given. It's not like you go in the chapel, you see the coffin lower, or you wheel out and then that's it. You get to see it. Is that you have to pay for this option?
Is it a hefty add-on?
Oh, it's like $300-400.
It's not too bad.
So
It's not too bad compared to
for the amount of time that you get to see. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how I would feel like 10 years ago or when Mum went if I could have watched that. I don't know if I could have. But yeah, I was having to give a lot of trust to those people that were looking after my mum.
I mean, like there's obviously windows where you're not going to be able to see. Like obviously between, when the hearse unloads the coffin at the crematorium, and
Yeah.
then by the time they line it up to the cremator, you're not going to see that in between. So yeah, they could still do something there.
Yeah.
But me personally, if you can minimize the amount of room for error, then the better.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, even with burial, the good thing is with burial and cremation, you can all be fully involved in the process. You can be pallbearers. You can be, do a guard of honor. You can do all sorts of stuff.
Hand lowers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
we've done a few families recently where myself and us in general have stepped aside and we've
and
just
allowed
let the
that.
family and friends do it.
And that look, I don't want to get involved in other people's thing. If that's what they want to do, give them the option. If they don't, well, then that's what we're trained to do. So we do what we have to do. That's the good thing. But
it's always better if the family can get involved.
Yeah,
Always
even
better.
if it's just carrying across, that's fine. I mean, I guess the biggest thing would be is that whatever your way that you decide, be burial or cremation, you just got to be true with it. If that's what you want, then that's what you get. You know what I mean? Yeah. But please let people know, your loved ones, whoever's going to be looking after your things, of what your wishes are. I don't know how many times I have to tell people, just tell them cremation. If that's all you talk about, or burial, just tell them. Yeah. Burial a little bit more. You might need a little bit more information, like, do you have family in a certain cemetery that you'd like to be? Where is it? So we could try to get you close, or what? Cremation it can happen anywhere.
Yeah. But there's like 3 things you can do with a cremation too after you're cremated. You can either keep it, you can scatter it, or you can inter it.
Yeah. And the containers that they come in at the moment can be buried as well. So, you don't have to then release the ashes out of that container unless you really, really want to. But they can be buried like that, even with the cardboard that's around them.
Yeah, but there's a scattering urn as well, isn't there?
Yeah, if they want to do that. So, but once again, it all comes down to what you want to pay for,
But bottom line is cremation's always cheaper.
Oh yeah, definitely. So yeah, but look, like I said, there's going to be probably a couple of other episodes. We've now really come out with the medieval side of things and the Vikings and all of that, and maybe a little bit more cultural ones too of what certain procedures are. But what you search for on Google and things like that can always give you an Americanized or an overseas point of view rather than an Australian point of view. So it's being able to get that balance between all of them, really.
And it's hard because most places go off the American side, especially around this
Oh
side.
yeah, definitely.
Everyone relies on information from America for us,
Yeah.
even though we still do our own thing, but no one talks about ours.
No,
They always talk
no.
about America.
Yeah, they're a bigger country and they beat their chest with it. They do some really good things with what they do with their, even military funerals or burials and I mean we do a pretty good job here too. But yeah, it's pretty amazing to see how different countries do their certain things, and I'm always intrigued in other cultures because it's we think our life is pretty simple or whatever. There's countries out there that are more simpler than what we are.
Yeah.
Not as strict about things. They don't overcomplicate things.
Keep things basic.
Yeah. So just have a think about which way you want to go, burial or cremation. Probably in another 20 years, there'll be other options. Like that aquamation will probably become more big thing.
Yeah.
And that has reason. That the reason why they brought that out is because many, many moons ago, some countries used to place their loved ones into a flowing stream. And that's meant to activate what an aquamation is, but not my cup of tea.
Yeah, it's a bit different.
But cremate, even some of these other options, like it's just, you just think, wow. But in 10 years' time, it's like, it's normal.
Yeah.
So whatever's new will be new for a while, and then everyone will be backing it up.
They kind of have to come up with new things because if you run out of land, you won't be doing any more
That's
burials.
right. And they used to do the, I don't know if they had a place in country Victoria for the vertical burial. But for us, logistic-wise, you'd have to, jockey strap them in or something because otherwise they'd concertina in the coffin.
Yep.
Because they wanted to cut that down. But then a lot of the feedback from the local community was, I've been standing for 80 years. I'm not bloody standing when I die. And you just think, well, that's a fair point too. Just for the space. No, lay down.
But you can fit multiple people in one grave too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
I think
definitely.
You can fit up to 4, is it?
3 is probably the depth that they'll go now. And they've actually lowered the actual depth. They've actually brought the depth up because it used to be third was 12 foot, then 9 foot, then 7 foot. Now it's, I think you got 5 foot for one, 7 foot for two, and 9 foot for the other. So, because there's been some accidents in graves where they haven't shored it up properly, and grave diggers got covered in dirt, and that grave wasn't used.
Wow.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can. For those out there who think only one person can go into a grave, you can fit 3.
Yeah.
So you can put, if you.
Well, that's of laying down members. Then you've got cremated remains that can go into that as well, like what we did the other day with that family.
So if you decided, for your whole family, there's 3 of you in the family, right?
Yeah.
If you decide, we're getting near there, I want to pre-purchase a plot or a grave,
Yeah.
And you go, all right, partner just died, lower him or her into there.
Yeah.
Or say mum died, put her in there. Dad died, he can go next.
Yeah.
And then when I die, I want to be put on top of them.
Yeah.
But it's not coffin touching coffin; it's separated.
Yeah.
So
it's pretty much about a foot worth of earth or something there.
Yeah. So there's an earth divider.
Yeah.
Basically.
But you think about even when I look at the exhumations that I've done, or even just a visual of like if you did a cross section of it. Eventually all of your skeletons are probably going to meet up somewhere.
Yeah, because everything else will just disappear.
Your toes might end up on mum or dad. You know what I mean? Like if there's been movement in that earth.
Or everyone might just be in one big pile.
Yeah, I don't know. And we will never know because unless we cross-section an area and go, no. Yeah, like what did you say? Like Mythbusters or something?
Yeah, Mythbusters.
Is this true? Does this happen? So, yeah. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed Simon doing the intro and leading us through this today. It was weird me not doing it.
It was weird me doing it.
Oh, he chucked a tant. He was on the ground. He was going, no, I want to do it.
Rocking back and forth.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Simon.
No worries.
And yeah. What else can I say? Join us on TikTok. Let's Chat About Death podcast. Some lovely information there. We do lives. We do all sorts of things. The other thing too is we do have merchandise. Let's Chat About Death merchandise. Go to our TikTok account, Let's Chat About Death podcast, and in our bio, click on to the Shopify account and start buying. Lots and lots of designs, funny ones, and we're going to be coming up with some more as we go along. But once again, thank you so much, everyone, for listening. Hope you've enjoyed it, and we'll see you around. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.